Stephanie, how are you?
That is a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. Good to have you here. Thanks for hanging out with me today. It's been a while since I think we've seen each other, and obviously we'll talk a little bit about. We'll talk a lot about a lot of things that have been happening in your life, obviously everybody's life, but we're here to talk with you about it. So it's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today. Wonderful space that we're in. Let's get started with, for the few people in multifamily that may not know who you are. Tell us a little bit about not only just who you are, but tell us a little bit about your career. You don't have to go the whole career story, but the impact you've made, where you started, where you are now, and maybe who you work for as well.
So I've been in the apartment industry for, I would say, about shy of 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not what I wanted to do with my life. I went to college, I did all the things, and had what I thought was bigger aspirations at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then started in the industry like many of us, leasing consultant, worked my way up, regional manager, director, even worked for the National Apartment Association and touched into the nonprofit world, and then transitioned over to the dark side as a supplier. And what's really cool is I've been able to gain this entire 360 experience of what it's like to work on all sides of the business. It helps you to be able to communicate with people better. It helps to understand where they're coming from, what their point of view is. And for me, it's allowed me to make a grander impact with touching more people in the industry. And that's what it's all about for me, is the people and being able to connect with them. And throughout my entire journey, I have had the honor and the privilege to care for so many people through the years and to help them elevate their careers. Some of them, many of them, have surpassed me in terms of what their titles are, and that is the greatest privilege, I think, in my career, is to watch that happen.
So tell us a little bit about who you're with now, what you do, the role that you're in today.
So I have been with Grace Hill for 5 years now, which I feel like that has just flown by. And a wonderful organization. We are so much more than training in an LMS. So if you have not seen Grace Hill recently, you should absolutely check us out. We're doing a lot of amazing things. I work in marketing. I am their senior director of communications and social media. So I handle all things public relations, social media, communications. I like to think of myself as being behind the scenes to help tell the story of Grace Hill, to help promote the senior leadership and what they're doing, and to help people understand that we are more than an LMS and that the impact we're making really helps people love where they live and work, and that's our mantra. That's what we're living by, and so to be able to tell that story is a large part of my job.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think the audience may also want to know, who is Stephanie, non-professional Stephanie, mother, a lot of things, right?
A lot of
sister.
things.
Yeah.
And I would say, when people first introduce themselves or ask me to introduce myself to them, before I say anything else, it was always, I'm a wife and a mom. Because those, to me, you have to know me at the core to know me even in the business world. And that was really important for me. And so when you ask, who am I outside, I am a mom of 4. I have 4 wonderful children, 16, 14, 8, and 3, which, as I was told last night, is quite the spread.
I can relate.
I know you can. 4 is where it's at, right? My youngest is special needs, and what an honor to have a special needs child, but it is also makes you look at the world very differently.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that? Obviously I can relate in a lot of ways, but how has it caused you to look at the world differently, having a special needs baby?
You don't know what you don't know. And so while I had empathy for others in terms of what they were going through, and having any child that was not what we would dictate as maybe normal in today's society, you don't know until you go through it. And I knew that Trey was different from a very young age.
So can I ask, did you know during pregnancy that there was going to be differences?
No.
Okay.
Perfectly healthy pregnancy, perfectly healthy first year of life.
So no early signals.
No.
Obviously it's a baby, so.
He met every single milestone. And there was, and I would say so much so that if I was not a seasoned mother,
because you had 3 babies already,
I would not have picked up on it as quickly as I did, which in a situation where you have a child that is severely autistic, he is level 3, he does have significant developmental delays.
So for those who don't know, and even education for me, what does level 3 mean? Is it a scale of 1 to 5?
It's 1 to 3.
1 to 3.
So 1 would be more like fully functioning autistic. That means they could talk. It means that they still need help maybe with sensory processing and things of that nature, but they're on the lower end of the scale, meaning they still have the diagnosis, they still need help, but their help is different than, say, a level 3 where Trey's at, and that is he's completely nonverbal, meaning he doesn't even say 1 or 2 words, because nonverbal for some people does mean they can speak like 20 or 30 words. Okay. He's completely nonverbal.
And how old is he again?
He is 3. And so not only that, but level 3 is also needing significant care. You know, he has a specialized wheelchair. He has special needs for dietary. He has Pica, which most days is worse than the autism itself.
What's Pica?
So Pica, when I talk to people about Pica, the best way I can tell you is some pregnant women get Pica. If you've ever watched, you know, a show on like TLC where it talks about crazy things people do, and pregnant women eating chalk, like straight chalk out of the box.
So is Pica the medical term or the commonly used term for?
It is the medical term.
Is it just mental?
They're just eating things that are non-food. And a lot of it is about the sensory processing and meeting a need. And so when I tell you how significant his Pica is, it started as more like carpet, clothes, toys, and now has escalated to window seals, drywall.
Those are dangerous things.
Dangerous things. So a safety issue.
Paint, lead,
amongst other things.
Yeah,
so my day-to-day is challenging in and of itself, going through grief, but I'm also grieving a life that I thought would be different because my son requires so much needs and attention.
Gosh, I don't know if I knew all that. I knew there were special needs there, but I didn't know the extent of that. Thanks for being willing to kind of unpack that and pardon some of the questions, but I'm not familiar with all the terms, and there's a lot of care and need there. Can I ask, obviously this question is maybe for other parents and mothers with babies with special needs, you know, how do you manage through the day? You know, obviously you have a successful career, but you have 4 children, you have one with notable special needs. How do you process the day to day? And I know that's a loaded question, that's a big question. I'm hoping that there's help nearby, maybe great therapists and people that can help as well. If you're willing to tell us. And I'm sure every day is a little bit different, and some days feel like wins, and some days you're like, this is a total L.
That's the balance, right? I think in anybody's life is we're going to win. Some days we're going to win, and other days it's definitely challenges and failures, and you've got to lean into those and come back the next day and show up all over again. For me, the mindset has to be, I am moment to moment, day to day. You know, oftentimes people will say, what are we doing next week? What are we doing next month? I don't even know what I'm doing this afternoon in a lot of ways because my mind just can't process that because everything is so overwhelming. And that is interesting being a planner. Like if you knew me let's say 2 years ago, you wouldn't even understand that would be how I think nowadays. So I would say for people listening and watching, especially if you're going through something like that, I think it's okay to mourn certain days and forgive yourself for the mistakes that you're going to make, because it's going to happen. I would say that it is very frustrating taking care of a special needs child when there is not enough resources and a lot of doors are closed on you constantly.
And what do you mean by that? Just medical resources, options?
Government resources. You know, Pica for a 3-year-old is not commonly discussed. So everyone from pediatricians to government resources constantly say, He'll probably outgrow it. He'll likely outgrow it.
That's their best guidance.
That's their best thing, because there's no medication for that. There's nothing they can do. And I said, you know, it's interesting, because if Trey was, let's say, a 25-year-old person, he would be in a padded room.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I could relate in a lot of ways, just because, you know, physicians are doing the best they can.
They are.
And everybody's well-intentioned. You know, you're not saying they're not, but resources, training, education, even in the medical community, obviously there's some opportunities there for that to improve. And
yes.
It's improved probably over the decades, I would imagine, and hopefully it continues to improve. But, you know, with a 3-year-old that's eating windowsills and other things of that sort, and he can't control himself, that's very dangerous. I mean, he can become very sick and a lot of other things, and maybe he has, and so so I understand. I can relate in a lot of ways. Let's talk about sort of what I think is kind of the big picture of life over the last couple of years. Can you tell the audience and tell us, you know, what happened maybe less than 2 years ago that changed your life forever?
So March of 2025, so we're talking just over a year ago. And actually, I'll back up. I'll say January of last year. January 1st, New Year. You wake up and you're excited because you've got a fresh slate.
I mean, you're saying January 1st, the day, New Year's Day.
He wakes up and he can't really walk on his foot. And he's like...
Now tell those...
And he's perfectly healthy for that.
Now remind us, who's he?
So Andy, this is my husband of 17 years, and he wakes up, by the way, not a complainer, never complains about anything, gets up and says, this is strange, my foot. I can't really walk on it. It wasn't really swollen too much, anything out of the normal.
Was it just sharp pain? You couldn't put weight on it?
Correct. And we're like, okay, that's strange. But again, typical Andy, and probably most men, I would say, is you brush off a lot of things, or you say,
you limp around for the day.
I'm going to push through it. A couple of days go by, and he goes to patient first. I don't know if everybody has those, but it's like a little urgent care, hole in the wall box type thing, where you're just seeing, hey, he probably needs an x-ray, which they do. They come back and they say, I think it's just a fracture in your foot. Well, interestingly enough, he had not done anything, you know, out of the ordinary. But nonetheless, he gets an x-ray and they say that fracture, and they said, well, let's just do an MRI to cross all of our T's and dot our I's. Let's fast forward to he has an MRI, and everything in the medical world takes time. So it's not like you just go and get it the next day.
Yeah, schedule the MRI,
weeks are passing by. Yes.
And he's still unable to walk.
Still unable to walk
on that foot.
During that time, the MRI comes back. It shows a little bit of a dark spot on his foot, but nothing concerning. They said that's probably the hairline fracture. Put him in a boot. Let's keep going. So then, I would say a week later, his shoulder starts hurting him.
Now we're what?
We're about February at this point. Shoulder starts hurting.
Out of the blue.
Yep. And we're like, okay, this is strange. Another week goes by, his hip starts hurting. So he decides to go back to that.
And this is notable
location.
pain, right? It's not just like a...
Oh, this is not a pulled
We're all getting
muscle.
older, so it's...
This is like...
So I pulled something, but I didn't do anything.
And it's sharp pains. So he goes back to the patient first and says, okay, foot's still not good, now I got these other 2 problems. They said, well, we can't see you for all those things because you can only be seen for 2 things at a time. You can only have 2 complaints at a time.
Is that a rule, apparently?
Apparently. And I guess the rule would be the same if you went to the ER or kind of any urgent type facility, because
can't come here with 3 things. You have
no,
to come here
because
with 2.
they're treating symptoms, right? They're not, they don't really diagnose people. They're treating your symptoms, so they can't be.
The shoulder hurts.
With
Let's find shoulder pain issues, arthritis.
They do X-rays, and it's like, there's nothing. Maybe you're getting older. Okay, he's 47 years old.
Sure.
So that shouldn't be bad.
They probably looked at him, I would imagine, being in my 40s now, you know, hey guy, you're getting older, aches and pains come with age. So, you know, okay, so now his hip, his shoulder, his foot. So then
they decide to do
and his
more
foot
MRIs.
Hasn't probably improved much.
It has not improved at all. So
with
now
the boot, all the things. So that's concerning.
It is very concerning. So he gets another MRI. And they come back.
Is this on his shoulder, his hip, or?
Back to the foot, because they don't really want to address the other 2 things because the x-rays didn't show anything. The only reason they pursued the foot was
Let's go back to the original
showed.
issue, okay.
Yep, so we're going to do another MRI. By the way, the first MRI was read by a world-renowned person who has written books. So that was a pretty trustworthy, like, hey, that's a fracture.
Or so you thought at the time, yeah.
And everybody's entitled to make mistakes, right? We're not all perfect. But at that point, you were pretty trusting of what they were saying. He gets the other MRI. They call him back immediately, and they're like, that's a tumor.
In your foot?
In your foot. So immediately, we're getting referred to a specialist.
Now this isn't a visible tumor, though. Like,
Correct.
you can't see it.
You can't see anything. Foot looks totally normal.
Is it in the tissue or on the bone, or?
On the bone. And they called it the third meta, which would be, if you're thinking about each of your toes, the third would be right there in the middle. So right there on top. So we're getting referred to a specialist. During that time, he starts having trouble swallowing. He's sitting at the dinner table, and it's like he's choking.
What are you thinking privately?
In my mind, you go to worst case scenario.
Are you
Did cancer ever cross my
Googling
mind?
things
No.
all
Yes.
along the way?
And if I could give anybody advice throughout the entire journey, please don't Google. Because it's going to tell you worst case scenarios.
Did it tell you worst case scenarios, and did it also give you accurate scenario?
No. Because what we are later going to find out is that Andy is in the less than 1% of Americans in the US that will have cancer that will start in an esophagus, spread to your extremities so far as your foot without any noticeable visible symptoms. Because if it was going to spread, the most well spread would be into your organs, like your lungs, your stomach, your throat, even your head. Right. Not your bones, and certainly not
your feet,
your foot. And so we go to the surgeon about the foot, and they said it's likely benign because there's no chance that he would have anything else going on, even though they knew about the swallowing at that point, and he was scheduled for an endoscopy because they needed to get in there. They needed an endoscopy and colonoscopy. They said it's likely your esophagus just needs to be stretched out.
Can I ask how Andy's doing at this time?
At this time, he's still, one of the
Staying
things about
positive
Andy, he's cool as a cucumber. And I think that's why we've always balanced together, is because
You're not as cool as a cucumber?
No, I'm not a stress ball, but I definitely get anxious over things, or I'm very much like,
more tightly wound.
yes, gotta be.
We gotta get on this, we gotta fix this, we gotta figure this out, yeah.
And
he's like, yeah, we'll get to it.
He's like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, I think, he knew it wasn't normal, of course. Like, something's going on.
So at this time, his foot's hurting, his hips hurting, his shoulders hurting, and now he's having trouble swallowing.
Yes. But people are telling us, doctors, physicians, they're saying there's no way this is related. There's no way. So we're like, okay, we're literally looking at.
I mean, that's the group you have to trust in this situation.
That's all we have, is what people tell us.
Okay, so when do you get to March?
So he's going to have an endoscopy and a colonoscopy in March. And that...
Remind us what an endoscopy is. I think
so endoscopy is basically where they put a camera, it goes down your throat, and they're looking at your throat, your esophagus, pretty much all your upper area.
Most are, I think, familiar with colonoscopy.
Yes,
Endoscopy
it's essentially the same thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going through the top. And that is to see what's going on up there. People that have like really bad acid reflux and digestion.
Just to see what's going on.
Yep, because you want to see, it's not just about finding disease, but it's like, is there
something else there?
Is there, what's
Sure.
going on that could be
things,
aggravating the situation. So, which they say at that age anyway, you probably should be getting these things, routinely done. We go to the surgeon for the foot on Friday. That following Wednesday is when we're going to have the endoscopy. We said, hey, you can still have it done. He's not scheduled for surgery until 2 weeks after that for the foot, because they're going to remove that tumor. They're going to confirm that it's benign. It's going to be a done deal.
Is Andy still working?
He is still working full time. The kids are about to go on spring break. Okay, so I'm gonna paint you a picture.
You're approaching March. Yeah.
We paid for a cruise. We are going on a cruise with our kids. We didn't get the insurance because we've bought the insurance in the past, and when my parents travel with us, which is every year,
Sure. Nobody buys the insurance.
we always consider the travel insurance just because my parents are older. Well, they were not going to go on this cruise. So instead, I said, we're not going to pay. That's like extra hundreds of dollars.
We're a young family. We're fine.
We're fine.
Figure it out. Even if we're sick, we'll go. Yeah. Spread it on the cruise.
Absolutely. The surgeon tells us no big deal with the foot because we're going to do the surgery when he gets back.
He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. That Wednesday, we were scheduled to leave on Saturday for the cruise. That Wednesday we go in to have the endoscopy, I'm sitting in the waiting room. He has to do the terrible prep the day before, because
So,
you
like,
got to do
drink
the, yes.
gross stuff.
Yes, and you get so sick, and we go in, they take him back. I'm out there just chugging along on my laptop, working, because I'm like, yes, we're going to get this figured out. And, you know, on a cruise, there's unlimited food and buffet, so we got to get this figured out so that he can really enjoy all the food on the cruise. That's the mindset we're in. They said the doctor calls you when it's done. So I'm waiting out in the waiting room, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. People are coming and going at this point. You see people that have come after you, and yet they're leaving before you. I get no call from a doctor.
How many hours are you in?
I mean, I would say at that point we've been there about 2.5 hours. A nurse comes out in the waiting room, and she said, I'm looking for Stephanie Anderson. Present. She says, you want to go get in your car and pull around? I said, well, hold on. And this is in front of everyone, because the room is filled with people that are waiting on their loved ones, or loved ones that have not been taken back for a procedure. And I look at her, and I knew something was off, and I said, wait, the doctor didn't call me. She goes, he didn't call you? I said, no. She goes, well, he's busy. He had to move on to his next case. Go ahead and get your car and pull around to the discharge area. Okay. Something didn't feel right, but I went and got my car. To know me and Andy is to know, like, the excitement, the butterflies I still get every time I see this man. So to me, I'm thrilled to go get him.
Because you're thinking,
we're closing
it went well.
this. Yep. They were supposed to stretch out
it's
the
going
esophagus.
so well, the doctor forgot to call you.
Absolutely, because why would they waste time on me? Everything's normal, he's great.
Good, they got it out, everything went perfect, great.
So I pull the vehicle around, Andy's in a wheelchair, which is typical, right, when
He's
they're
coming out of
discharging.
post-op, yeah.
The nurse is standing there, he has a pack of papers in his hand. I don't even get a chance to get out of the vehicle because they've pretty much like scooted him right in. They're like, here you go. He gets in the car, and his demeanor has changed. Because again, this man, like, I'm the love of his life. So normally it's very exciting. He gets in the car, he sits down, he has the papers in his hand. And he says, I have cancer. My whole stomach dropped. This is what they say when they say that there's this out-of-body experience where someone is telling you something and you're like, this is not happening right now, because that was the last thing. What? Now maybe if we were at the surgeon, because we had already talked about a tumor in the foot, that would have been more expected. But
so you're like, hold on, what?
Yeah, so it's taken me back for a second. He asked me to start driving. So I'm processing while I'm driving. We're about 30 minutes from home. I'm driving, and he's handing me the papers. I would say there's probably about 4 or 5 papers with photos, because remember, they've put cameras when they're doing the endoscopy. I'm still trying to understand why the doctor didn't call me. So I'm...
Sure, you have a range of emotions, largely frustration.
Right.
What's going on?
And I don't even understand what's happening.
So my
right
husband
now.
just goes through, you know, the surgical procedure. He's a little woozy. He's getting into my car. He essentially was just scooted into my car with papers with his diagnosis.
Right.
Expected for him on
Like
his own to process this.
Like we're at the DMV to get a license, or we're paying a ticket at the city capitol. Like
and I'm sure those papers were to go now see the next step.
Well, they say the doctor is going to call you all after he refers you. You need to be seen immediately to someone who specializes in this. Now, at that point, they had taken biopsies. So we had not confirmed, but he said, this particular doctor, he says, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I know what cancer looks like. This is cancer. He said, we'll have to wait on the biopsies. That can take up to a week. He said, but I'm telling you, you need to get to an oncologist now. The pictures I'm looking at, I don't know what I'm looking at. I mean, it looks like strep throat. That would probably be what I would, imagine.
You're not a doctor. You don't know what you're looking at.
And I'm still not understanding what's happening.
And this is all that day still, right?
All that day.
Did you hear from the doctor later?
We did. That doctor...
And he told you this, I've done this a long time, and it's that, and you need to move quickly.
You've got to move quickly. And he says, you got to go through staging. You've got to figure out what stage this is. You've got to figure out what you're going to do. He said, I have a friend who is at the facility that we're going to send you to, and she's the best. He apologized over and over again, because come to find out later, after this man is still, because you know, they sedate you for these procedures. They got him out of the bed and put him into a room with a little round table to come in there and show him those photos and tell him he had cancer.
By himself.
By himself. Sedated by himself. I'll never forgive. I can't. I can't. That's not acceptable behavior.
I can't go to the doctor without my blood pressure going up because I have what they call white coat syndrome, right? I couldn't imagine that. And I can understand your frustration, and it's troubling to hear that that's how they handled that. So he called you. Andy's processing, I'm sure, probably coming out of sedation to some extent. You guys, I'm sure, are going through your medical process of like, how are we going to address this? What is staging? Apparently we need to figure out what staging is, where the stage is. If I was to guess, you also are thinking about the kids at this time. You have 4 kids. Do we tell them? Do we tell them now? Do we figure out what stage this is before we tell them? Nobody wrote a manual on this, so you're not sure how you guys are going to do that. So I assume you go to a doctor specializing in staging and tell us where we're at when you get those results.
I would say same day before we go see the doctor. Such a dark time. We go and lay down. My mom's there, she's got the kids. We go and lay down in the bed because, again, he's been through a lot, not just physically. Now we've added all the information.
Yeah.
We did a lot of crying.
Was that one of the first times you've seen him nervous or scared?
Yes. I mean, his exact words, I'm going to die. And of course, me, I'm so positive. That's not going to happen.
No. You're young, we'll figure this out.
We're young, and medical, like, advancements. There's no way. I said, we're not going to worry about what we can't control. We're going to take the information as it comes.
Yeah, just start in your foot, you know, we'll figure this out.
You know, there's an episode in Grey's Anatomy. I don't know if you've ever watched Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
There's an episode, and Kit, the doctor, she points out that there are 2 big parts that happen, right? Before a diagnosis and after a diagnosis. And you will forever be changed, because who you were before those words is, you can't ever be that person again. And just thinking about that, it is absolutely true, because your whole world, you know, cancer, when someone gets diagnosed with cancer, it's not that one person. Yes, it's scary as hell for them, but it affects everybody around them, those that love them, their job, their family, their kids, everybody.
Yeah, people don't really think about how many, the entire community and tribe is affected.
And that's trauma, whether you want to admit it or not. That is a traumatic experience, to find out that someone that you love or care about or even know is embarking on.
Even people that know you know,
Absolutely.
like people in your circle, even, not even in his circle, but your circle. Okay, so that's happening, right? Obviously, the traumatic experience of discovery, if you will, or at least the initial discovery. Take us to, you learn its advanced stages.
So,
and I know we're skipping a few steps.
Nope, it's okay. The oncologist she had an excellent bedside manner, but she also was very...
No, that's more important than people realize in this moment.
She was very upfront, and I am also a very upfront person. I like transparency, I like honesty.
Yeah, be kind, but be direct, please.
Yes, and so when we started going through staging, part of that is not just the biopsies and things of that nature, but they're looking at symptoms and where you're at. And something to understand with esophageal cancer is, in the majority of cases, you don't know that you have it until it's already in a later stage. So rarely would anybody ever find that they have like stage 1 esophageal cancer, because by the time you can't swallow or it's spread, it's your symptoms at that point, they don't show up until then.
Yeah.
So we knew, in my mind, I kept thinking, okay, stage 2, stage 3.
Are you still Googling?
I am Googling, and the biggest mistake, because you want to talk about running to the bathroom and throwing up when you're reading things, esophageal cancer is very deadly. And so I'm learning about the cancer.
It's right up there with probably pancreatic, right?
But I'm learning that it is, we already know it's spread, because at this point.
So you're learning these things. Are you sharing these things with him, or?
Yes. I was 100% open with him.
Did he ask that of you?
Yes. And the hardest part was I had asked the oncologist separately. One of the times he was in the hospital, I said, what am I looking at timeline-wise? Because she was very clear that borrowing a miracle, he will succumb to this. She was very clear with me. Now let me take you to that moment of me hearing that and acknowledging that, but still, my God wouldn't do that to me. Right? He can't let that happen. I have 4 children. My son had been diagnosed with autism and his severe developmental delays just December before Andy started in January. So we're talking about a lot of change happening in a short time.
I got 4 kids, one with special needs. God wouldn't do that to me.
Why? Because God gives us his strongest soldiers the hardest battles. But there's no way that I'm equipped.
And you thought in that moment, this is not something that I could do.
I can't do this. There's no way. And she said if he doesn't go into intense treatment, he'll be lucky to have 3 months.
So this is March, April?
Mm-hmm. And so this is April at this point, and she says, however, if he goes into intense treatments, she said, this cancer's bad. If he is willing to fight like hell, you can get 12 to 18 months. You can get that.
And Andy's in the room hearing this, right?
No, this is what I have to tell him, because he didn't ever ask that question of her. And I did share this with him.
He didn't ask how long I have?
Correct.
Did he not want to know?
No, because to him, there was no other option than fighting like hell and winning and beating it. That was it. Even in his last days, there was no, this is what we're looking at. It was
every day. Just show up every day.
Every
do my
day.
best. Well,
and we didn't even make it the 12 to 18 months. Spoiler alert. We made 10 months. And we were told 12 to 18 if he fought. And he did fight.
And that was best case scenario.
That was, yeah.
How did you, so 2 things I have questions about is, how did you tell the kids?
I mentioned earlier the difference in ages. Going into it, I knew that was going to be hard, because I have to meet them where they are in their ages. Because how I'm going to tell an 8-year-old versus a 16-year-old, how do you?
That's a different message, yeah.
It is a different message.
So did you pull them aside individually and then collectively talked about it?
And then collectively.
Who took it the hardest?
I will say that I sugarcoated it a lot for my 8-year-old. Now, mind you, Trey being 3 and special needs.
He's just going to love.
Mm-hmm. My 8-year-old, I didn't use the word cancer.
Yeah. Sick.
Big mistake.
You just said he was sick.
Mm-hmm. And remember, he had the surgery for his foot to remove the tumor. They didn't know it was a tumor, but they knew he had an injury to his foot that they had to take care of.
So daddy's sick, he had an injury, he's getting better.
The problem is that he didn't come home after that surgery, because they realized at that point just how bad that cancer was spreading to all of his bones.
So they admitted him to the hospital?
They admitted him immediately. I had gone to get the car to pick him up, which apparently is something I'm doing a lot, right? I'm going to get the car to pick him up after the surgery. And I get a phone call as I'm walking up the 8 flights of steps to go get the car.
That's a lot of steps.
I was out of breath, and the phone rings, and it's the hospital. I'm like, oh, that's strange. I answer it, and they said, you got to get back here right now. It's bad. When they did the x-ray on his foot to make sure they got everything before they discharged him,
Spread?
they could see that his pelvis was broke. When I tell you how much pain that man was in, and you never would have known because of how strong he was, we went on a cruise. He couldn't get out of the bed on the cruise, right, for the kids' spring break. We're lucky he didn't need to be med-flighted out of there because we had no idea that he had broken his pelvis. And so he needed to have immediate surgery. Pins needed to be put in. Cancer was eating straight through every single one of his bones.
Fast.
Fast. His pelvis, his groin, his knee, his foot, his shoulder, his back, his chest. It was everywhere. It was like a light bright board when you would look at any of
MRIs or
any of
X-rays or MRIs.
all of it.
So he makes it 10 months. And I'm going to let, you and him have those intimate final moments. So we're not going to talk about those. But I will ask you to describe what grief feels like.
There are 2 types of grief that I have come to know. The first was not talked about enough, and it's called anticipatory grief. And I came to learn very quickly that when someone has a terminal diagnosis and you know where it's going, you are grieving that person every day because you already know what the end is. Now, you don't know when. You have no idea. You couldn't.
Yeah.
But you know it's going to happen.
So you're grieving before finality.
Before it ever takes place. And when you talk to anyone who has dealt with this, they're very familiar. Oftentimes they have no idea what it's called, but it's anticipatory grief because you are grieving what is going to come.
Right. Once you have a diagnosis and you have a fairly notable timeline, you're now starting to cope, right?
You're starting to cope, and you're realizing what's going to happen.
You're starting to look at your life post finality.
And then, of course, there's the grief that happens after the loss, which continues to happen far beyond just the funeral, right? That people don't realize it.
How?
And we were still doing active treatments. That's all he wanted. We were trying to get into every trial. We were talking to Israel, a hospital in Israel. There was nothing off limits for me, for this man.
I love Andy's fight. Yeah.
We went to 5 different hospitals in 4 different states. There was no just first and second opinion. It was whatever it took. I would deplete my bank account. I would travel the world. Whatever it took.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough.
Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
No. Because that man fought so hard, and I found every resource that we could. Every door that closed, another one we found open. There was nothing I would do differently. He got so sick that
and the treatment stopped working for a second time, because we changed treatments a couple different times. And when we got to the point where there was no more lines of treatment without the trial, so we had to make the hard decision for hospice. Now, hospice shouldn't be scary, because there are people that go on hospice and off hospice, right? That they get stable enough. I mean, again, he can't be cured, and we understand that. They were very clear about that, every doctor. But we can make him comfortable and happy. And, you know, the thought of being able to give him 6 months or a year where he could still enjoy all the things he wanted to with his children, that was where we were headed at that point. Before we went into hospice, every night I'm like, what if he doesn't wake up the next morning? So I slept on the floor outside of his door, because he's in so much pain. I couldn't sleep with him because he can't be touched.
It's just
you know,
uncomfortable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bone cancer is a very
Uncomfortable.
very hard cancer, and so at that point I couldn't.
Yeah.
But I made sure that I was near him at all times. And then he went into hospice, and here we are at January 1 of the following year, 1 year later since the first symptoms had started. And hospice comes in, and he made it barely to the 17th day in January. So much for 6 months. Or
I'm going to ask two questions. I'm not sure which one's easier or which one's harder. How are the children doing?
I would say every day is unique. Again, you've got different ages. My 2 teenagers, there's hormones already. There's that's at an awkward age in general.
Life is coming at life. For them, life is happening fast.
It is happening fast.
And they're living life. Life is for the living.
And
right?
how do you process something of this magnitude at that age? You can't possibly. So I would say that
they're doing their best.
They're doing their best. They're showing up every day. You know, I worry about mental health. Teenage suicide rates are through the roof. One of the things, it's hard for me to cry on camera and to be vulnerable, because, you know, I'm usually very polished. I'm authentic, but I'm very polished. And Andy and I always said throughout this journey, if we could help one person, that was always the goal with sharing. But I will tell you, the stage that I'm at now, obviously I love talking about Andy because he is an amazing person and deserves to have that legacy continue. But for me to show up and show that it's okay to feel like this, and it's okay to hurt, but still coexist with grief and joy together, that's for my kids. Because they have to know that that's normal. Whatever normal is, you know, that's okay.
So I want to ask you a question a little bit, because I think we're similar in a lot of ways, but I think this is where we're also similar, as we're storytellers, right? And we're willing to tell our story to a larger audience, even if it is a painful story for us.
Yes.
But in doing that comes, I think, with a general public perception of how we're going about coping or processing. You know, tell us, I sense it's been very therapeutic for you, and maybe connected to the core mission of trying to help one person in this process that may be struggling, or a recent diagnosis themselves. Can you tell those listening who maybe have been skeptical about how you've been so public about this, and how could you be so public? Because I can't.
I know.
I don't know if everyone's built the same way.
They're not.
Can you tell us why you've told this story so publicly along the way, and what the purpose was, so maybe those listening who don't understand it can understand it?
And you know, I'll preface it with, as public as I've been with sharing, I want people to understand that they still have not seen it all. And there are some moments and times that I will take to my grave because they're very intimate and private. And I want to protect Andy and our private conversations, but
I trust most of those moments.
yes,
No one
but
will ever see.
also I want to protect my children. You know, when we were going through the thick of it in the fight, you never heard me on camera saying we've got 3 to 18 months for him or any of that stuff.
No, there's never a timeline.
And I never would do that because
That's also no one's business.
it's not. And I had to be careful what I shared for my kids. There were moments I didn't think he was going to come home from the hospital. There were so many days that I thought he's not going to survive.
Something
the
I want
day.
to say, though, that you mentioned to me that I think it's important that the audience understands is everything that you shared, you got Andy's authorization.
That was so important to me, to protect his privacy and his dignity throughout everything.
Yeah, I think it's important people know that.
Even before a photo was posted, It was, are you okay with this? We had so many conversations because I would never do it without his blessing, because that was so important to me throughout this entire process.
I think that's important. I just want to, first of all, thank you for being as vulnerable and honest as you've been. I asked you, how are the kids? I want to ask, how are you?
That's a big question. And if we weren't friends, I would just say, okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, because
As good as I can be.
What else do you say? Two things that I was not prepared for post Andy. One is how much grief affects you physically, because I knew going into it that I would have to be strong mentally and that I was going to be up against huge mountains here mentally. But the amount of stress on your body and how your body responds to losing your person and going through all the things.
What happens? Is loss of appetite?
Loss of appetite, wanting to vomit, just being sick to your stomach at the thought of different things. Your nervous system is trying to overcompensate and react to everything that's happening. Not wanting to get out of bed, being so overly exhausted. It's like you have the flu all the time.
But you're not sick.
But you're not. And the other thing I wasn't prepared for was, yesterday was 5 months since he transitioned to heaven. Why am I not getting better? It's almost like month 4 hit and we were at the peak of starting to make some progress, and now we're down. And here we are at month 5 yesterday.
Hard day.
Why? But why? Because I feel like I should be at a point, not where I'm healed, oh my goodness, no, but shouldn't I be at a point where I can breathe for a moment? And I think it's because I've been in fight or flight mode. And I'm worried about everybody else, taking care of everybody else, especially my children, that I have fallen by the wayside.
So how can people support and interact with you today in a way that maybe can bless them, but maybe can bless you and your family as well?
Hugs are always welcomed. I would say don't skirt around it. You know, I had a lot of people this week who have not known how to react. They were just as nervous to see me as I was nervous to see people. Right. And that's okay, because we're all navigating uncharted waters. No one knows how.
Nobody ever lived this day before this day.
No, we're all just figuring it out together. But ignoring it is hurtful, and it's, this is my life. Like, acknowledge, and I hate the words I'm sorry. I hate them so bad, but yet I'm accepting of them.
Yeah.
Because I don't want other people to look at me like I'm this victim or I'm this fragile doll. Life has handed me a heck of a bucket of lemons, But I don't even know that I want to say we're going to make lemonade.
Yeah, I don't think you're.
And
I don't
it's
think.
not going to be sweet.
Maybe eventually the lemonade stand comes, but 5 months in, we still are looking at this bucket.
Yes.
and thinking.
And I want people to talk about him because, especially at industry events, people would always say, "We like you, Stephanie, but we love Andy. So where's Andy at?" So come up to me and ask me where Andy is.
The essence of a better half.
Yes. And I agree. I loved him more than me. Like, how could you not?
I didn't know him, but he sounds like a wonderful man, and sounds like he was. I'm going to ask you sort of a final question. Hopefully that could bring a bit of a smile and optimism to you. What are you excited and optimistic about in the future?
I get the coolest privilege. You said you were going to make me smile. I get the coolest honor and privilege to have a front row seat to 4 amazing children. They look like him. They sound like him. What an honor to be their mom and to see Andy's legacy carried out. I cannot put that into enough words that as hard as this is, what a blessing to get to do that. What a blessing to sit here today and share him. Incredible. I will always be grateful for the journey. I will never regret anything. I am sad.
Sure.
Our story ended.
Yeah.
Earthside anyway. Of course I'm sad. I don't know what life looks like. I don't know what life looks like moving forward. I know I have to.
Yeah.
I got to show up for those kids every day, which I do. And
Well, that's a lot to be excited about.
And leaning into God. I have to give it all to God, and I've had to.
Yeah. My last question of the day is for anyone going through something similar, what would you say to them?
Oh gosh, I would say you have to go through it. You've got to feel every emotion.
It's okay to feel.
It's okay, and you have to, because you're never going to get to the other side without experiencing it straight. It's going to be tears, it's going to be happiness, it's going to be sadness, frustration, overwhelming. You're going to be mad. Some days you're going to be mad. And my mom and I have had tough conversations with God, because it's okay to be grateful for Him and for our blessings and to wake up every day, but it's also okay to be mad with Him.
And have a lot of questions.
We have so many questions, and I will likely ask why for the rest of my life, but I cannot allow it to consume me, because what is that going to do? And even if I did find out why this happened, let's say God Himself came here and told me why He did what He did. What would that do? Because it's not going to change anything. I'm going to continue to lean into Him and His purpose. I'm going to continue to share Andy's story. I'm going to be brave and show up every day. People love to tell me how strong I am, but Tony, I'm doing what I feel everybody else in the world would do if you were in my shoes.
Yeah, you don't feel you're doing anything different.
You don't have a choice to be a superhero.
And I think you're doing what Andy would like you to do.
I constantly ask myself, what would Andy do? Because he was just the most amazing person ever. It kept me very level-headed. So if there's a situation that I'm stressed over, what would Andy do? What would Andy want me to do? And by golly, I feel like he is just beaming with pride, because that strength that he gives me and the signs. He hasn't come to me in my dreams yet, which I've been wanting so bad, but I will tell you, there are signs everywhere, and if you allow your guard down and to see them,
you'll see them.
You'll see them.
Thanks for sharing your story. Appreciate you.
Thank you for allowing me to share my story, and for Grace Hill allowing me to share such an intimate time in my life.
Thank you for being as strong as you are and as vulnerable as you've been today. It means a lot, not just to me, but hopefully to everyone watching, Stephanie. So we're excited to see the future, your kids grow, and to see what you do in the industry. So thank you for being here today.
Thanks.